ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै।
This will be lecture number 30 on our ongoing series on mechanical measurements. It also happens to be the very beginning of module 3, which will deal with the measurements of derived quantities like the heat flux, heat transfer coefficient, I have labeled them here, volume or mass flow rate. In fact, in the earlier lecture we have talked about the measurement of velocity, but here we are going to talk about volume or mass flow rate, and then the so called bulk mean temperature. Some of the measurements we are going to highlight in this module will be important or will play important role in thermal engineering. For example, heat flux is a very important quantity which is measured, and it may also lead to in a indirect fashion to the measurement of the heat transfer coefficient, and therefore these two are somewhat interrelated. The volume or mass flow rate is very important because in most process applications we would like to know the volume flow rate or the mass flow rate. If you recall, if there is a pipe or a duct carrying a fluid, the velocity will of course vary from point to point within any cross section of the pipe, but we would be interested in finding out what is the mass flow which crosses any section, and therefore it will be an integrated effect of the velocity through each area element across the cross section. So the volume or mass flow rate either can be directly measured or indirectly measured, as we will talk about a little later on, but basically it is a very important quantity in most of the process applications. The bulk mean temperature corresponds to the same case where you have a fluid moving through a duct or a pipe, and we would like to find out what is the mean velocity of the fluid as it is carried along the axis of the tube. So some of these will be highlighted in the module number 3. To start with, I am going to take a look at the measurement of heat flux, and heat flux measurement can be measured basically by measuring the effect the heat flux brings about in terms of some kind of a temperature distribution in the sensor. Okay, heat flux is measured by the change in temperature brought about by its effect on a sensor, and there can be different types of sensors. For example, we can have a steady state temperature field, and therefore we have a sensor which is essentially under steady conditions. We could also measure the heat flux in terms of a transient setup within a medium. So the medium will be the sensor, and the transient temperature field with this sensor will be used to find out either the average or the instantaneous value of the heat flux, as the case may be. Another way of dividing or looking at the heat flux measurement is to look at what is the effect of the heat flux, whether it is going to give rise to a temperature field in the direction of the heat flux or in a direction which is not along the heat flux but maybe in a different direction. For example, I can have the temperature field set up in the sensor is perpendicular to the direction of the heat flux, and I will explain it on the board in a moment from now. So example will be a foil gauge or Gordon gauge. Gordon is the name of the person who invented this particular heat flux gauge. or it could be parallel to the direction of heat flux, as in the case of a conduction type heat flux gauge, which will be dealt with in detail subsequently. So, let us go to the board and look at what are these two types of situations. So, what I am talking about is you have a heat flux which is shown by arrows like this Q. This is usually measured in watts per square meter, the rate at which energy is crossing a unit area perpendicular to the direction of the heat flux. And suppose I have a sensor which is schematically shown as a box here. This is a sensor. I can have a temperature field in this direction, that is the direction of the temperature variation within the sensor is parallel to the incident heat flux. This is the incident heat flux and this is the temperature field, or it could be perpendicular. That means that I could have a temperature variation in this direction. This is the perpendicular direction. This is parallel direction. So, these are basically the two different types. We may also be actually measuring heat flux in a system of coordinates other than Cartesian. So, we will come to those things a little later. I will talk about for example, heat transfer in a radial direction, radial heat flux in the radial direction and so on. But basically we are talking about the effect of the Q is to set up a temperature field with sufficient degree of variation, so that we can measure it, so that it is measurable with whatever instruments we can think of. Actually, you will now realize that even though I have not specifically mentioned, the heat flux is going to set up a temperature field, and therefore, I am measuring the heat flux by measuring the temperature. Therefore, Q is inferred from temperature measurement. And of course, we have already discussed the measurement of temperatures by various methods. We are already familiar with all the different types of measuring instruments which can be used for temperature measurement, and therefore, we are simply transferring or changing the quantity to be measured, the heat flux, into a corresponding temperature or a temperature difference or temperature variation. It may be either linear, non-linear, whatever, and therefore, we are going to infer the Q by measuring the effect of Q on a sensor, which is to set up a temperature field. The temperature field can be either steady state, that means it is not going to vary with respect to time, or it could be a transient temperature field, which means that it is going to vary with respect to time. Of course, in the case of transient measurement, it may vary very mildly with respect to position, but very strongly with respect to time. That is also possible. So, let us go back to the presentation where I have shown a simple Gordon or foil type gauge, and I have indicated schematically the basic idea of the sensor. So, the sensor actually consists of, you can see here, I have a foil, and that is why it is called the foil gauge. Foil means a thin material in the form of a thin sheet, which is called a foil. Very thin sheet is called a foil, and what I have done is I have taken a constant in foil, or in fact Gordon, the person who invented this, suggested the use of this particular material, constant in foil. And you will immediately recall, if you go back to your temperature measurement, Constantan was a material which was used in the case of a thermocouple. constant and copper thermocouple, if you recall, is one of the thermocouples which we talked about earlier. Therefore, I am making the foil in the form of a constant and foil, very thin, and it is stretched tightly over the annular cylinder like this. This is a cylindrical block of copper, annular cylinder of copper, and the constant foil is tightly stretched over this. That means it is intimately connected at these 2 points, at these 2 regions, at the periphery. And you will also see that I have a small thin copper wire attached to the center of the foil, at the geometric center of the foil, and another copper wire is attached to the copper cylinder. So, if you look at carefully, you will see that there is a junction between the constant and foil and the copper at this point, and at this point again there is a constant and copper junction. There are 2 junctions, in other words. The material of the foil is now stretched over this, and it forms two junctions, one at the geometric center of the foil with a copper wire, and the other one at the periphery with the copper cylinder or copper annulus, which itself is connected to a copper wire. So, that means that I have 2 junctions, one between the cylindrical annulus and the constant in here, and the second one between the constant and the copper here, and they are such that they will indicate the temperature difference between the center point and the junction at the periphery. So, if I connect a millivoltmeter across these 2 copper wires, or if these 2 copper wires are connected to a voltmeter, the output which I am going to measure is an indication of the temperature difference between the center and the periphery. Now, we should ask the question, why there is a temperature difference. If there is no heat flux falling on this foil, if there is no heat flux, and if I am cooling this copper annulus by either having a water stream going through this, inside this, and then removing the heat, or it could be air cooled. So, the temperature of the copper annulus is going to be maintained at a low value. By removing the heat, it gathers from the constant foil. So, the constant foil gathers the heat from the outside here, as is shown here, normal to the constant foil, and the heat is removed from the periphery by a cooling arrangement, and therefore, I am able to maintain under the steady condition the amount of heat which is absorbed by the plate or received by the plate is exactly compensated by the amount which is removed by the cooling medium at the periphery. So, what happens? We have a thin foil, and the heat transfer has to take place by conduction radially in the foil. So, the heat is received transversely or perpendicular to the direction of the temperature field which is going to set up, and therefore, this corresponds to the case where the sensor temperature distribution is in a direction perpendicular to the direction of the heat flux. Okay. So, what I have is a temperature variation along the radial direction here, and we will in a little while we will find out what is this variation, how it varies, what is the relation to Q and the various dimensions of the sensor and so on by a simple analysis. So, the point is that the Q which is to be measured is now converted to a delta T between the center of the foil and the periphery of the foil, and that is measured by a millivolt, which is the conversion of temperature now to an electrical signal by thermoelectric phenomena. So, what I am doing essentially is that converting Q or transducing Q to a potential difference. So, Q is proportional to the potential difference. In fact, we will see later that there is a direct linear relationship between Q and the delta T I am going to measure, or the voltage I am going to measure. So, how are we going to do this analysis? Very simple. I have just expanded that sketch a little more, and I have indicated the Q which is incident from the transverse direction, and what I have to do is take a small annular ring consisting of the foil, I take a small ring and make energy balance for this. I find out what is the energy coming in, what is the energy leaving, and then make a energy balance, and that will give me the equation which governs the temperature field within the foil. And of course, I have to use the boundary conditions. At the center, I have to use a suitable boundary condition. We will see a little later what it is going to be. At the periphery, I know that I am going to maintain the temperature of the copper cylinder at a small value, because it is going to be cooled by some medium. So, this is going to be maintained at some temperature, and then I am now going to find out how energy is transferred from the heat flux which is falling perpendicular to the foil, and how it is removed by the coolant here, how it sets up a temperature field. This is what we are going to look at. I am going to do this simple analysis on the board. So, I will just redo that figure. I will do only one side. This is 0, the center of the foil. These are the periphery of the foil. The radius of the foil is r. I will assume that the foil has got some thickness, which we will call it as delta. I am showing only one portion, one half. It is symmetrical. You rotate this small rectangle with respect to this axis, you will get the foil. So, I am going to look at a small piece of material, and we will assume that the thermal conductivity of the material is K, is the thermal conductivity of the material of the foil. Over this small area, a certain amount of heat is being received. So, if you take this as dr, the heat coming in or heat received by the foil element this will be equal to the area of the exposed portion. For the analysis, we are going to assume that there is no heat transfer on this side. That means that there is almost like it is insulated. Of course, in actual practice there may be some small amount of heat loss from the back, and it can be accounted for if we know the conditions on the other side, but for to make the analysis simple, we will assume that it is insulated on the bottom. So, the heat received the foil will be nothing but the area of the element. Area of the element is nothing but 2 pi r dr, 2 pi r dr, that is the area. Area times the heat flux Q is the amount of energy received, of course per unit time, therefore, it is actually power received by the element. This is also having heat transfer by conduction in this direction, and the heat transfer by conduction in this direction within the foil. Heat is conducted because there is a temperature variation in the radial direction. Therefore, the net heat transfer, net heat transferred into the element by conduction will be this minus this, what is coming and what is leaving, minus what is coming, or what is coming and what is leaving is going to give you the difference between the two. So, the difference can be written by using Fourier law of heat conduction, and assuming that the conduction is now in the radial direction, the temperature is varying radially, and it is not varying across the thickness of the foil, because the foil is very thin. So, we have one unidirectional temperature field, and this can be shown to be equal to by using a simple Taylor series expansion, 2 pi multiplied by k multiplied by delta. I will explain the significance of each term, d by dr of r dt by dr multiplied by dr. This dr comes from the Taylor expansion. This d by dr of r dt by dr is the net conduction flux, and r is coming inside because the radius, as the radius changes, the area also changes. Okay, area available for heat transfer changes. In fact, delta into 2 pi into delta into r is the area of this side at the left side here, and 2 pi into delta into r plus dr will be the area of this side. Okay, so the area is continuously changing in the radial direction. So now what I have to do is the heat received by the foil element must be exactly equal to the net heat transferred into the element, because under steady condition these two must be equal. So under steady condition, under steady state or steady conditions, these two must be equal. We equate these two, and therefore I will get the following equation: d by dr of r dt by dr. I am just going to simplify it by removing some common factors and so on. Q r by k delta equal to 0. This is the governing equation. So the temperature field is governed by a simple equation of this particular type, where Q is the constant heat flux which is being applied on one side of the gauge, the other side being assumed to be insulated. So what are the boundary conditions I have to employ? At r equal to r, T is equal to whatever is specified as the temperature of the coolant or the temperature of the cylindrical annulus, that is Tr. At r equal to 0, all we can do is to say that T must be finite. So if you take this equation number, let us call it 1, and these are the boundary conditions, this can be integrated twice, and I am going to just indicate that integrated. If you integrated once, you will get r dt by dr. You have to integrate term by term, plus q r squared by 2 k delta equal to 0. So this r can be removed, and that r will go to the, that r will cancel off with one of the r here. Okay. So that is the equation you are going to get. Right hand side of course will not be 0, we will give a constant of integration, we will call it A, and when you divide by r, that r will come here. So A by r. Okay. So if I integrate once more, so this is one integration will give you this equation. A second integration, will give a very simple straightforward integration. T plus dt by dr will give you T by plus q by 4 k delta into r squared is equal to a log r plus b. R q by 2 k delta was there, r is integrated, gives r squared by 2, therefore this becomes 4 by 4 k delta here, and this we can call as equation number I think 4. Now you see that this becomes infinity, r equal to 0, this becomes infinite, tends to infinity. Therefore this has to be equal to 0. That is why I said the temperature must be finite at the origin. At r equal to 0, it cannot become infinite, and therefore this term goes to 0. Therefore T plus q r squared by 4 k delta equal to b that is the solution to the problem. 4k delta equal to B. I can also write the following. If you put R equal to capital R, I know that it is TR plus QR squared by 4k delta is equal to B, right. So, I will from these two by subtraction you see that you get T minus TR plus this minus this, I will take to the right hand side, that will become Q by 4k delta into capital R squared minus R squared. So, we will call this equation 5. And what does it mean? The temperature difference between any radial location and the periphery T minus TR is given by Q by 4k delta into R squared minus R squared, and this is always positive. For any R less than R, it is positive. Therefore, what do you expect? We expect the temperature to be high in the middle of the foil, and as we go towards the periphery, the temperature is going to come down to the value which is specified by the cooling arrangement we have provided. Okay. So, there is a temperature difference which is going to be generated by the application of the heat on the foil, and this temperature difference is in a direction perpendicular to the direction in which the heat flux is applied. So, that is the basic idea in this particular gauge. Now, let us look at this equation slightly more in more detail. So, I will recapitulate here. T minus TR is equal to Q by 4k delta into R squared minus R squared. So, if I put R equal to 0, so at the center of the foil, so we have R equal to 0, T equal to T0, and therefore, T0 minus TR is equal to Q R squared by 4 k delta. And what is this? This is nothing but measured by the two junctions. Whatever output we mentioned when we were discussing the gauge is actually this temperature difference. So, what I am doing is I am setting up a temperature difference between the center of the foil and the circumference of the foil at the radius equal to capital R, at equal to Q R squared by 4 k delta, or I can rearrange this equation as Q equal to 4 k delta by R squared multiplied by delta T, where T naught minus T R, I am calling this as delta T. So, the delta T is the differential temperature indicated by the differential thermocouple. So, we are using a differential thermocouple which measures directly the temperature difference between the center of the foil and the circumference, and that is what we are measuring. Therefore, the measured quantity is this, inferred quantity is this. So, I am measuring a temperature difference, and therefore, I can also write this equation in the form Q is equal to capital K delta T, where K is the gauge constant. So, we can just recapitulate, put it in the next slide. So, Q is equal to K delta T, where capital K is nothing but the 4 k delta by R squared is the gauge constant. So, this is the fundamental equation, basis for the Gordon gauge. So, this is the Gordon gauge characteristic. So, Gordon gauge characteristic is given by Q equal to capital K times delta T, where delta T is the temperature difference set up between the center of the foil and the periphery, and capital K is the gauge constant, which is related to, if you can see here, the thermal conductivity of the material is coming, the diameter or the radius of the foil and the thickness of the foil. So, it is geometric and the thermal properties of the foil which are going to come into the picture. So, by the suitable choice of delta r square and the material of course here is a constant and foil. Once you choose the constant foil, the thermal conductivity is already known, there is no change in that, it is going to be about 20 watts per meter degree Celsius. So, the thermal conductivity is fixed. So, what I can do in practice is to choose the delta and r combination such that I get the desired value of capital K and the desired value of the measurable value for delta T. So, you see that if the K is very large, delta T will become small and so on. So, it is a question of having some kind of a balance between these two. What is measurable is delta T, it should be a measurable quantity, and if you remember, if you have a copper constant thermocouple, so copper constant, it is also called the T type thermocouple, the 1 degree Celsius difference will correspond to about 40 microvolts. This is the Seebeck coefficient. So, you will see that if I am able to maintain or get, let us say, about 5 degrees Celsius difference between the center and the periphery, it will correspond to only 5 into 40, about 200 microvolts, it will be 0.2 millivolts, 200 microvolts is only 0.2 millivolts. Of course, I can use an amplifier and amplify the signal and so on. So, that is part of the electronics which is going to come with the sensor, but as far as sensor is concerned, this is the fundamental equation. Before we go back to taking a look at a typical case, let me just briefly discuss the transient behavior of this particular foil type gauge. So, the transient analysis is somewhat involved, and therefore, I am not going to go in great detail. I will just indicate a few steps in it, so that some idea about how to do that is going to be of time. It is somewhat difficult probably to understand completely. Let me just try to highlight what we are going to do. Suppose you have the foil, this is the origin, this is the R, so this is the circle. So, what we saw that the temperature at the middle is T0 and it is Tr. So, it is a quadratic relationship. So, this is your temperature profile. This is the temperature profile. Suppose a gauge is exposed to a heat flux all of a sudden, what is going to happen? Initially, the entire gauge is at the temperature equal to Tr. So, this is at T equal to 0. At T equal to 0, the entire gauge is at the temperature of the periphery, and after being exposed, after some time, the temperature is going to become this, and it is going to grow like this, and finally, it is going to come to this particular. This is, in other words, this is the steady state. So, when you subject the gauge to a transient by applying a step input in the form of a heat flux turned on at T equal to 0, initially the temperature is uniform and slowly the temperature profile builds up, and you can see the following. At any instant, for example, if I take a look at this particular thing, this particular temperature profile, the amount of heat flux which is being received by the foil partly is utilized to heat it up, it has to heat up, partly heats up, and partly it is removed here because there is a coolant which is removing the heat. So, you can see that, let me just say that the rate at which the energy stored in the foil changes this should be made up of two terms. One is the heat received from the incident heat flux minus heat removed at the periphery. So, this is basically the idea. So, if I can get suitable expressions for each one of these, I will be able to model the transient behavior of the foil and then obtain the response time of the system. That is basically what I am going to do. So, in order to do that, let me just go through a few. I am not going to derive anything, everything in a complete way. I will just indicate, and in fact, for this what I am going to do is I am going to use the already known expression. You know already that T minus T r is equal to Q by 4 K delta R squared minus R squared, and we also know that T naught minus T r is equal to Q R squared by 4 K delta. So, in fact, from these two I can get the following: T minus T r divided by T naught minus T r dividing one by the other, Q by 4 K delta will go off. So, I will get 1 minus R by R whole square. That is, the T minus T r, the temperature at any location in the foil with respect to the periphery temperature, is given by T naught minus T r into 1 minus R squared by capital R squared. This is a parabolic distribution. It is a parabolic distribution. So, in fact, if I want to find out what is the energy contained within the foil, I have to find out the following. So, the energy contained in the foil is nothing but density times the specific heat times the volume of the element. Is volume element is 2 pi r dr multiplied by delta, this is for an element, multiplied by T minus T r. This is the amount of energy within the foil, and therefore, I have to integrate between 0 and r. So, for this T minus T r, I will use the expression which I showed in the previous slide. T minus T r equal to T naught minus T r into 1 minus R squared by R squared, and then integrate it. So, we integrate this. So, T minus T r, I will use that. So, I will not show the integration, it is very simple. It will be, of course, rho is a constant, Cp is a constant, they are assumed to be independent of temperature. So, I can remove all the terms which are independent of time, and therefore, I can perform the integration, and you can show that this is equal to rho Cp delta pi R squared T naught minus T r divided by 2. I am just trying to find out what is the response by doing a very simple straightforward relationship. So, dE by dt is what I want, the ratio, the time rate of change of the energy contained within the foil, that will be given by rho Cp pi delta R squared by 2 d of T naught minus T r divided by 2 is already divided by dt. That is the expression. So, this is one expression, this is the part of the expression which corresponds to the rate at which energy is being stored within the material. This must be equal to the energy which is coming in that amount of time dt, some amount of heat flux is there, that heat flux is going to come in, minus what is removed at the periphery. So, what is removed at the periphery I can find out. Removed at the periphery, removal rate at r equal to r is nothing but the heat transfer by conduction from the foil to the annular cylinder. So, this will be minus 2 pi r k. So, you look at the 2 pi r is the periphery multiplied by delta, this is the area of cross section, 2 pi r k delta into k multiplied by dt by dr at r equal to capital R. What I am going to do is I am going to use the same expression which I had earlier and then obtain this particular thing. At any instant of time there is a certain instantaneous temperature gradient at r equal to r, and what I will do is I will manipulate the equations. I will not show the intermediate steps. We can show that this equal to 4 pi k delta multiplied by T naught minus T r. Of course, T naught and T r, T naught is already a function of time. Instantaneously there is some temperature. What I am making the assumption, what the assumption I am making is that at any instant of time the temperature is varying. Temperature, in other words, at any instant of time the temperature comes to a local steady state value and it goes from one steady state to another steady state locally. That means that the shape of the curve is not changing, and under the condition of that you are going to get this one. So, now I can write the final equation finally. So, d of T naught minus T r by dt multiplied by rho Cp delta pi r squared by 2, this is the rate at which the energy is changing, plus this quantity 4 pi k delta into T naught minus T r. So, this is the heat transfer at the periphery. This must be minus pi into r squared is the area of the foil multiplied by q, this is the heat which is collected, this is equal to 0. So, the transient is governed by this expression and it is a first order equation. First order equation, and therefore I can identify immediately this is of the form. If you remember, we had a first order system which is in the form dt by dt plus t by tau is equal to t infinity by tau. This can go to the right hand side, it becomes like this, and t by tau. So, I can, all I have to do is to bring it to this form, and therefore I can, by dividing throughout by this coefficient here, I will be able to bring it to this form. So, if you do that, we can divide by rho Cp delta pi r squared by 2 to get the final form, which is what we are interested in, which will be d by dt of T naught minus T r plus 8 k by rho Cp r squared multiplied by T naught minus T r is equal to 2 q by rho Cp delta. This is the final equation, and therefore you can see that this is nothing but 1 over the time constant. Therefore, the time constant for the foil type sensor is given by tau is equal to r squared rho Cp by 8 divided by k, and this k by rho Cp is nothing but the thermal diffusivity of the material. So, we see that therefore, tau is equal to r squared by 8 into alpha, r squared by 8 alpha. So, that is more or less completes the simple analysis of a transient in a foil type element, and let us just look at the results of this particular calculation. So, what I am going to do is to look at the, I have just written transient response also, r squared by 8 alpha. This is what we derived there by a simple analysis, and let us take a typical example of a gauge, this example 32. It may be constructed using a 6 millimeter diameter foil of 50 micrometer thickness. The foil is very thin, 50 micrometers, and the diameter is 6 millimeter. Thermal conductivity of the foil material is typically equal to 20 watts per meter degrees Celsius. So, copper constant and foil. So, copper constant and thermocouple pair gives an output of about 40 microvolts per degree Celsius. So, the given data corresponds to delta equal to 50 micrometers, which is 15 to the power of minus 6 square meters. R is 3 millimeters, is nothing but 0.003 meters, K is 20. So, the gauge constant then works out to be K, capital K equal to 4 K delta by R squared, 4 into 20 K, delta is 5 into the power of minus 3 divided by 0.003 squared, which will be 444.4 watts per meter squared degree Celsius. You will notice that the gauge constant is in the units of the heat transfer coefficient, it is in the units of heat transfer coefficient. In fact, now I can rewrite this in terms of the thermocouple output, and you remember 1 degree Celsius corresponds to about 40 microvolts. So, instead of 1 degree Celsius, if I put 40 microvolts here, so I will get 444 divided by 40 is equal to 11.1 watts per square meter microvolts. So, this is the performance index or the gauge constant for the foil type sensor with delta equal to 50 micrometers and the R equal to 3 millimeters. And in fact, I have made a plot. Actually, the plot is taken from the paper by Gordon, whose paper appeared in ASME Journal of Heat Transfer 1962. He has made a plot showing the foil thickness on the x axis, the foil radius on the y axis. It is a log plot. On the right hand side, he has given the time constant corresponding to the R and delta values you choose, and several lines are given here corresponding to different sensitivities. Sensitivity is nothing but the reciprocal of the capital K, reciprocal of the capital K. So, sensitivity is so many millivolts per watts per centimeter square. This is a more usual way of representing the sensitivity. Instead of microvolts and watts per meter squared, you use in terms of millivolts and watts per centimeter squared, and watts per centimeter squared will correspond to about 10 to the power 4 watts per meter squared, 10 to the power 4 watts per square meters, and 1 millivolt will correspond to 10 to the power 3 microvolts. Okay. Now, whatever I worked out in the example 32 is shown here. The point corresponds to 1.11. If you take the reciprocal of what I gave there, it gives to 1.11, and that is very close to the value which is shown by Gordon in his thing. He has got one case where sensitivity is equal to 1, my sensitivity is slightly more, and this is the corresponding value of the thickness of the foil, and this is the corresponding value of the thickness of the radius of the foil, 3 millimeters and the 50 micrometers. And I have also taken another example here. If I take a foil of 0.01 millimeter thickness, this is incidentally this is in millimeters, this is also in millimeters, both are in millimeters. So, you see that a foil with a 0.01 millimeter thickness foil with a radius of slightly more than 1 millimeter also gives the same sensitivity, also gives the same sensitivity. So, sensitivity can be obtained for different radius delta combinations, and let me just digress a little bit and see why we should have different radii and different thicknesses. If you have very high heat flux to be measured, if you have a very high heat flux to be measured, you require a thick foil, otherwise the foil will get damaged, it will get overheated, and possibly a larger radius for that. Okay. So, the radius delta combinations or the radius R delta combinations are because you may want to design different heat flux gauges for different heat flux ranges. Sensitivity is one thing, this range is the second one which one has to worry about. I have taken in fact a typical example of factory assembled water cooled foil gauge. It is taken from the website of the company which makes it, Vatel, VATELL, this is the company which makes the gauges, and you can see the gauge here. The gauge consists of a cylindrical copper and there is a foil, and you are taking the thermocouple out here, the two leads, one from the center, one from the periphery is coming, and you see these two are the water cooling arrangement, the two tubes which carry the water in and out of the gauge. There is also another gauge which is not water cooled, a very small gauge for small heat flux values. You can see here we have a very small gauge without any water cooling, but there is a the diameter is much smaller, and you will also see that the time response of the if you remember r squared by 8 alpha, it depends on the square of the radius. If you increase the radius of the foil, the time constant becomes much larger, it goes as the square of the radius. Therefore, if you want to have a highly sensitive gauge with a low time constant, that means it is going to follow the heat transfer very fast, whatever heat flux changes are taking place, it is going to indicate with immediately. You must have a small radius, because r squared by 8 alpha, I do not have any control, because the material of the foil is fixed, the alpha is fixed, therefore, I only can reduce the r value. So, the smaller the gauge, the faster is the response, and that is in fact one of the reasons why we have different radii and so on. For example, in this case, for full scale output of 10 millivolts, this gauge works with 0 to 5 watts per square centimeter, or from 0 to 5000. There are several ranges available. The gauges are made in different ranges, 0 to 5 watts per square centimeter up to 0 to 5000 watts per square centimeter. It is a very high heat flux. In the case of high heat flux gauges, you may have to have good cooling arrangement. Very low heat flux gauges, cooling may not be necessary, or air cooling may be sufficient. Response time, which is what we talked about just a little while ago, you can have 0 to 5000 watts per square centimeter, which has got a response time of 3 milliseconds. 0 to 5 watts per centimeter square case, it requires 1 second. Why? Because you require a large radius, otherwise you are not going to get enough delta T. When the heat flux is large, the delta T is going to be proportional to that, and therefore you get a large enough measurable delta T with a small radius, whereas with a, you can see that when you have very low heat flux, you require a larger catchment. So, transducer calibration accuracy plus or minus 3%, repeatability 1%, sensitivity can be as high as 2 millivolts per watts per centimeter square. If you go back to the figure we had earlier, here you can see we are talking about the region between 1 and 10. Sensitivity is 1 here, is 10, somewhere in between 1 to 2 is very easily obtained. So, the heat flux gauge we considered till now, the foil gauge, the heat transfer or the heat flux and the direction in which the temperature changes, temperature gradient is set up is perpendicular to it. The second case, where the heat flux and the temperature gradient or the temperature variation is set up in the same direction or parallel to it, is considered here. I will just briefly describe it, and we will take it up for more discussion in the next lecture. So, essentially what is the principle involved? Let us go to the board and look at the principle of operation of these things. So, in principle we want Q parallel to delta T. In principle it is easier to do this. What we did earlier was actually the more complicated way, where you want a Q and delta T perpendicular to each other. Q parallel to delta T. Very simple thing would be to take a slab of material and allow the Q to impinge on one side, maintain the temperature here, just cool this surface. When the heat flux is coming here and you cool the surface, automatically the delta T will come. So, we will say this is T hot, this is T cool. So, this is very simple. So, one dimensional conduction in a slab. So, it is not a real sweat here, it is a very simple idea, but the main problem is how do you make sure that the heat transfer is going to be one dimensional, that is the main problem. So, how to guarantee one dimensional heat transfer. So, why is it so difficult? Let me just explain in the suppose I have a finite sized material, this is L, and let us say this is the diameter of a block of material. Suppose I have heat transfer coming, heat flux coming here, there may be loss here. However, I want to set up one dimensional temperature field, that means that I must have adiabatic sides. So, if the periphery is or the side is adiabatic, then I can guarantee one dimensionality. How do we guarantee this? How do we obtain? How do we obtain adiabatic condition or adiabatic boundary condition? That is the major problem. Of course, one could say that you insulate it on the side. Of course, the insulation will have some thermal conductivity and some amount of. So, what will happen is that if you have Q here, some amount of heat is lost here and the temperature gradient here, let us say Th and Tc, this will be smaller than if no heat loss were taken. That is right. T, this is Th minus Tc, Th minus Tc, one dimensional is greater than Th minus Tc, two dimensional, or where you have heat loss in this side. So, how to make it one dimensional? We use what is called a guard arrangement, and what I will do is I will start the next lecture describing the guard arrangement and how it can be used to devise a heat flux gauge in which the heat flux and the delta T are in the same direction. Thank you.